Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Self-Aware Millennial. I am your host, J.Mix. It is 2020 concluding. I'm so excited for the next year. I know this year has been crazy for a lot of people, including myself. Just to think at where we were this time last year and looking at where we are now, I would not have ever thought that this was going to be the case. But overall, I'm very happy. I'm going to be talking about all this throughout the rest of this episode. The podcast in review is going to come in February when Self-Aware Millennial turns 1 year old. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be awesome because I'm going to be going over like some of my favorite episodes and whatnot. But this episode in particular is going to be about me and just my evolution through this last year. And I'm really interested. If you are on Instagram or if you want to email me at theselfawaremillennial@gmail.com, please feel free to email me about your experience within this year and like how it's changed you. Because I really just want to hear about that and hear what other people have to say. And I want to see where the similarities are. So this year felt longer to me because for the majority of it, I did not have to work a 9-to-5 situation. Not that I ever really had a 9-to-5 situation. Let's be real. I had 2 jobs and, kind of interchangeably worked both. But the point is like, I wasn't working every single day. So my days and just this whole year felt a lot more longer than normal. But there's other people that I know that have said that their years has gone by so quickly, but it's because they never really had to take that working break. They kept working throughout the pandemic. So let me talk about the announcements first before we get into this. I said I was going to talk about my birthday party for y'all and just my birthday in general. It was a great day. It felt kind of weird though. I've noticed like as I'm getting older, the more my birthdays start to feel more surreal, it just feels like any other day. And I have to kind of remind myself throughout the day that it's my birthday, or I'll just get reminded on Facebook when people are like sending me and bombarding me with happy birthday messages, or I'm getting like text messages from friends and whatnot. I know for my next birthday, I'm planning to do, hopefully if we're out of this pandemic situation, I will have like a formal birthday party. But this was great. I was surrounded by family and friends that care about me, and we roller skated for 3 hours. We had a wonderful DJ out there. It was just a great time. It was really cold. It was probably the coldest night of the year, but we had to be outside because, Corona. And it was great. And Marlo, y'all met Marlo a couple of episodes ago. Marlo provided a wonderful, beautiful roller skating cake. It was so cute. So yeah, that went well. I think the only thing is that I remember feeling, at least within all of that, and it's funny right now as I'm talking, I'm like, I feel anxiety going, so I'm trying to remind myself to slow down and just calm down as I'm talking to y'all. Because I do that, and then like as I feel like my anxiety is coming up more, I start to remember that I'm like actually recording, and it just it messes with my brain. So I'm trying to just keep myself calm and collected as I'm talking. One thing that I was not able to do at the party, which I kind of felt I needed to, or that I was obligated to, was to sing for everybody, because I am a singer and I perform. And though I have performed for a lot of them before and a lot of them have seen what I've done, I think in this moment, I remember not being like, I was okay with it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. But then like it was very late on in the party and like we had to get everything cleaned up and like out of that place before it closed. And, just I felt pressured. I remember having like some anxiety about it just because like I didn't know what song we were going to sing. I didn't really think about that ahead of time. And just that whole party, like even though it was great, it went by so quickly. And like in the blink of an eye, it was over. And I can only imagine, I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder, this is probably exactly how like married couples feel when they have like their wedding and stuff. Like it just goes by so quickly and they have memories to like go back and look at like how it actually went. But like, as for like feeling and like being able to actually take in the day, unless you really have that organized ahead of time, somebody to like take over all of your stressors for the day, it's going to take you on, and you're not going to be able to necessarily enjoy it, especially if you're having to do everything. And that's what I felt I had to do for the majority of it. I didn't really get a chance to enjoy the party as much as I wanted to. I wasn't able to skate nearly as much, but I was still able to entertain everybody that was around me, which was great. And I'm so thankful that everybody showed up that I care near and dear about. So yeah, thanks y'all. As for the singing anxiety, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Singing anxiety for me has always been an issue, especially for things like if it's last minute. I had a lot of that this year throughout the pandemic, but like even just within the last couple of weeks, especially with Christmas and everything around, I got a couple of requests to like sing places, and as much as I wanted to, if it was going to be anywhere in closed quarters, I felt very unsafe to do so. Especially if it was going to be around a lot of other people. I just didn't want to risk myself. I didn't want to risk others around me, even though I'm very confident in myself that I don't have anything right now, but it's still like that peace of mind knowing, like, what if I don't know what everybody else's situations are. And I will actually talk about this in a later episode, but like I have singing anxiety galore. You know how people like ask you to sing on the spot? I can still do that. I can do that fine. It's the anxiety before I start opening my mouth. I don't know exactly what comes over me, but it's one of those things where I have to feel completely 100% wholly ready to sing for someone, to sing for anyone sometimes, because I am I critique my voice more than anyone else could ever critique my voice. If you're trying to critique my voice, I probably already know what you're critiquing, because it's already been something that I have wanted to improve. And knowing that it's like this pandemic and everything, and I can't really like reach out to actual vocal instructors for that unless I were to go into their rooms. Like, the thing about singing is that, yes, you can do so much over virtual, but you have to really be seeing what the person's doing, like with the rest of their body. You can't really do that over virtual. Anyway, this is me ranting and like going off into another tangent about something that we can talk about on another day. All right, 2020 year in review. Now, do a little brief highlight, because some of the things that really come to my head, especially at the beginning before Corona hit, was the fact that, I was working 2 jobs. I was a server and I was a performer. I was performing, going out of town every other week, basically. And then I was serving when I was here in the city. And I remember, Mardi Gras was coming up. And so, there was a lot of people in the city. I remember Cole passed away around that time. Cole and his daughter. So like that was a big shock at the beginning of the year. And like just kind of going through the processes of that and just like internalizing that and like trying to remember how precious life is in that moment. I remember I wasn't necessarily thinking nearly about like my future at that point, because like at that point I was kind of content with what I was doing. I mean, I didn't like necessarily working I didn't like overworking. And that's what I was doing a lot. Having those 2 jobs was a lot on me. But because I was so used to it, it was something I was like, well, what else is there? Like, what else can I possibly do? So by the time Corona hit, and, I'm already like in that space of like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, it just feels so surreal. It felt like a movie almost. It felt like I was going to wake up eventually, and like this was all just going to be something that I dreamt up, but like I woke up every single day and it was still happening. I was like, wow, I'm still quarantined. When I go outside, I remember, especially at the beginning of Corona, nobody was outside. Everyone was inside. I was going to like the park just to kind of get fresh air, to still exercise. I had some really cool bike rides at that point too. But the beginning of my 2020 was working 2 jobs and not realizing capitalistically like how that was benefiting others and not myself. And now I am in a place where I am solely in control of at least my well-being and like what I need for myself, and not having anyone else like conduct that for me. And I love it. So that's like a briefer about what 2020 was for me, but I'm about to get into detail about exactly everything it was. Now I have everything written down because, it was a lot. If you're on YouTube, this is everything I have to go through. We're gonna start with my worst moments because I decided I want to end this podcast on a positive note and not a negative note. So we're gonna go with the bad things and then we're gonna go into the good things that happened. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was something that a lot of people didn't know about because I wasn't like obviously telling everybody. I mean, my close friends knew. I went through a breakup. I mean, depending on the situation, it may not feel like it was a breakup, but yeah, I went through a whole full-on breakup that felt it was very prolonged because at least this person that I was involved with, like it was one of those things where like we just never officially ended things because we always thought something was going to happen and we could make it work. And so knowing that we're like also both like quarantined, can't see each other, I think there was one point like in the summer where we actually did see each other, and if it was like one time. But my issue was I realized that at least within the context of what our perceived boundaries were, it wasn't going to work unless all parties involved are cool with things. I just don't feel comfortable making things even more difficult if I were to continue progressing something that I know somebody else is not cool with. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I had a lot of those moments when you miss somebody and, you know, they all of a sudden just pop up in your head, but you realize you've already like sealed the deal. You've already ended it and you have to come to terms with that. And you're missing like the good things about the relationship. And it's just really hard. So just having all of those moments where like you just kind of miss good moments and wanting to have those again, it's sad, but I'm okay. I'm gonna be all right. And I have a therapist who has been awesome. So the second thing I want to briefly talk about is the World War II Museum. As y'all know, I have resigned from them since then, but during this year, as y'all know, I worked for them. I was there for 4 years. To briefly describe the situation, I had a lot of different workers at the World War II Museum were wanting the museum to be more transparent about where they stood with the Black Lives Matter movement. The museum was being pressured internally to do so, and they did say something internally to the staff, but I wanted them to be externally transparent about it, and they never were. Well, they tried to do it by just saying small little things that weren't necessarily like in your face. Like most of their followers, most of the people that support them, which are for majority, not just rich ruling class, but just like white people that are very patriotic, that are very much not for the Black Lives Matter movement, if you know what I mean. And I wanted them to be able to tell these people, the people that support them, you know, we stand with the Black Lives Matter and we want, you know, we're trying to help out our Black workers and X, Y, and Z, which is what they weren't saying to the public. The one thing that they said, there was like a live stream that they were doing with the house orchestra, and they put it in the little descriptor that they were going to postpone it due to the protests that were going on at that point. It wasn't completely clear. At that point, I was like, you know what? Whatever. I remember like noting it. I was like, okay, noted. You know, there was other small instances where they would say something externally, where they weren't being, but the problem is my thing was that they weren't being transparent and openly transparent to everyone about like where they stood. So basically I raised hell online while I was still employed there. And, you know, I was basically telling them, you know, like there needs to be a Black Lives Matter statement put out. They heard my cries loud and clear. I met with some of the higher ups throughout the summer to try to gather information on like what we could do to amend things like that. I felt as though if there were more leadership that were people of color, at least in the higher ups at the World War II Museum, this probably would have been a much more rewarding experience for myself to be able to work with them. But what happened was we all decided, you know, for the entertainment department, we were going to make a music video and show solidarity with the Black World War II veterans and just everybody who's Black. We're going to sing the Black National Anthem. We were going to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. and we got a music video together. I got two good friends of mine to choreograph and music produce the song. All three of us learned the song. We filmed it, everything. It was great. It was wonderful. And what basically happened was that we filmed everything. Everything was done. And then they never premiered it. They never premiered the music video and still haven't. And I have my plenty of suspicions as to why. I was not in the meeting that they had that they discussed, why they thought they weren't going to post it. And unfortunately, I can't really say anything after that because I wasn't a part of it and they didn't want me to be a part of it at that point. Even though I was part of the music video, they didn't want me to be a part of that discussion as to why they weren't going to premiere the video, which still hurts to me to this day. And knowing that I was going through a lot of trauma racially, even up to that point, and knowing that is just another layer to add to everything that was going on at that point. Like, my resiliency, I know I was feeling resilient at that point, but I know at some point, it all caught up to me, and I broke down because it was so discouraging knowing that we did all that work for absolutely nothing, feels like. And knowing that there was other people that were brought in, other Black artists, which is exactly what they don't have at the museum right now, to come in that are local to the area and just show them another version of a song that everybody in our community already knows. But anyway, as for the Victory Bells, this is my last thing I'm going to say. I don't plan to talk about the Bells a lot next year. And this is going to be it. This is literally it. I know there's been a lot of strained relationships that I have had with certain Bells because of everything that I have said this year, everything that I finally expressed this year. And I know I could have been better about coming to these people and telling it to them instead of just waiting until there was an opportune time to say it publicly. But that's, again, my anxiety talking, but I do apologize for not reaching out. I think it's hard as a person of color to do something of that nature because you already don't want to grind someone else's gears, because you already know. Here's the thing about white people: they always get what they want no matter what, and they don't even realize it because it always happens to them. And I know even right now, as people are talking to me or they're listening to me right now say this, they're just disagreeing with me, but I see it when I'm around them, and I see the privileges that they get when they walk into a room. It's hard, especially since I was one of the only Black Victory Bells for the majority of my career there, going into a room, knowing that the other two Bells who are usually, well, they're all white, what I'm talking about, the other two Bells were getting more attention when it comes to wanting to be, even when it came to picture taking, having the other white audience members want to stand next to the white Bells to take their picture and not me nearly as much. You see small little things like that, but you don't say anything because you're just so thankful for the job, and you're making money, and you're doing your job and making the museum money and stuff. And it's just, and that was something I could not deal with anymore. So my last words to the Bells right now, because and everybody at the entertainment department, was that I can't say that I'm sorry. I'm not sorry at all. At what I did, I knew what I had to say and do had to happen. I'm sorry it had to happen this way. I know we've had these conversations before all this and after, and just trying to make amends. And I really wanted to be there to help progress the Bells and just be representation for other performers of color that see me on stage. But in the end, I knew that the people that are at the high up portions of the World War II Museum could care less about me as a Black woman. And that's just the truth. If I weren't a performer and I was just a random person on the street, they could care less. But because I have talent and I can make the money, that's what they care about. I just so happen to be Black. This summer was a culmination of everything that I had been building up for the last couple of years. And I will also say this, because I know a lot of Bells are going to hate me if I say this, but this is why I love the Self-Aware Millennial, and I love to be absolutely positively open and honest. All the Victory Bells that have come through that have hated the original director of the Victory Bells because of how she treated them and how she acted towards X, Y, and Z. And I'm even going to say the people that that had to work with her. I understand your frustration on that regard, but I personally never had a problem with this person in the way that these other people did. And I don't think it's obviously a color thing, but I obviously see there's a privilege thing in that, where people of privilege that don't even realize they have privilege have the capacity to make things bigger out of proportion than they actually are. And then you have a person of color like myself coming in. I'm like, this person isn't actually that bad, because we have people of color, we have Black folks and other people that are so much worse. So that, I mean, like, yes, your experiences with these persons are valid. I'm not saying that they are not valid. All I'm saying is that what this person did can never be replicated. And the entertainment department has never been the same since that person left. They've been trying. It's been a lot more mentally freeing, because you're not nearly as afraid of, like, what this director is going to say. But I personally never had a problem with this person. They actually gave me a lot of growth as a performer. They were always very encouraging. They knew talent. They knew talent when it came in the room. I kind of just wish that the museum had given this person a better, more resources to have a better department, so that this person wasn't doing 6 billion jobs. Because I think that's what ultimately got them stressed and treating people the way they did. They didn't have time to be themselves and just, like, be one with themselves very much. They were always worried about the museum. But I just wanted to say that person, I personally don't have a problem with them. I never really did. I know a lot of other people did, but I guess I was thankful to have met this person at the time that I did. I think that there is a big hype when it comes to caucasity situations, where if one person that's white doesn't like this other person, everybody else is not going to like them. But also, a lot of the Victory Bells are very privileged, or at least the girls are very privileged, live privileged lifestyles, can get away with anything they want because they white. Some of them may realize it, and they sorry, and I didn't really want to go into all this time, but there's just been so many instances where I've watched them get away with all kinds of stuff, and no one has said diddly shit. I'm not even going to go into detail about that, because I've already wrote that in the living document. Them kind of sort of knowing their privilege, utilizing it to their advantage, which everybody should, but not speaking up for somebody like myself in a time where that's where I need the white support the most, especially if you claim to be an ally for Black lives, then do it, But anyway, I guess I'm still really upset about that, y'all. And the last thing I'll just say, bell-wise, is I wish you the best, and I just hope that there will be a time where it all makes sense to you why I had to do what I did. So with all of that, I had a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of racial trauma that went on this year that just had me in such a bad state of mind for majority of my days. And it really took a toll on my body. Like, I was having bloody poops, as y'all knew, like, throughout the whole summer. And I didn't know where it was coming from. I was going to go to the doctor and figure out what was actually happening. And I had my appointment and everything. And just the initial appointment with the doctor was like over $200. And I was like, if I was going to try to do some kind of procedure so that they can actually look and see what was going on, I didn't have the money to pay for all that. So I decided against it. And thankfully it all just kind of went away. But, I had the bloody poops. And then I had acne. I had really bad acne, like, right after that. And it came out of nowhere. And I know it was from stress. My body speaks and says exactly what it needs. If my persona and just the way I carried myself, you would never know that I was going through a lot. But my body always showed it, like what was going on, like that was coming from the inside out, always showed what was happening. So the stress from the acne and the bloody poops, like that literally like solidified everything for me that was actually going on. Even if I felt that I was completely normal, like I was doing just fine, I really wasn't. So let's talk about my best moments. So some of the moments that I really enjoyed this year were at the beginning of the quarantine, when everybody was just like, everything was silent. Pollution wasn't the thing because nobody was driving. I went on some really beautiful long bike rides during this time. And I remember just feeling so free. And I also enjoyed the fact that some of my bike rides I would do before the sun even came up. At that time, I was still working for the restaurant, and I usually had to be there around 6 a.m. most days. So my body was already waking up around 5. And so like I wake up sometimes around 4 and I'm like ready to go. And I'm like, well, okay, let me just go take a little bike ride with my boyfriend down to the lake. And we did that a lot throughout this pandemic at the beginning. And that was just such a nice, it was just a beautiful way to see the world, to see the city, to see the to see the world. I wish I could bike around the world. But it was a great way to see just the space, the area that we were in a different light. And to just know that, I don't know, it was so nice. And I would do it again. I feel like I've been more busier, and I feel like the overall, it's so much busier out on the roads, and it's just, I would be afraid of being hit by a car at this point. But there's the cool bike rides. Also started roller skating, as everybody knows. And I loved when I finally got my skates and finally started going to the park and skating and meeting all these other people that were basically almost in the same headspace as me when it came to their roller skating adventures and how they got started. And it was just nice to find a community that, like Marlo said, is rooted in play. So you meeting these people, not like in an office building or, like not in like a work setting. And it's just it's a different way of viewing humans as adults. Definitely going back into that little childlike state. And I'm here for it. Another thing I enjoyed was the unemployment checks. I still get them, but the ones where like the extra stimulus was added to it. It was the first time I ever got paid that much ever in my life. Like, and now, I mean, I don't have it anymore. And so I was saving a lot of that up for times like this where I'm not getting paid nearly as much as I was before. But it was nice to know that I could save my money and still work on my craft like I was doing. I was working on the podcast at that point, and also I could give back. I could give back my money to other people that needed it more than I did. I live by myself. And as much as I still need it for emergency purposes, but there's somebody that needs it right now. Someone that needs it that doesn't have an emergency savings. So it was nice to have that and to feel like I could finally give back to other people. Another thing that I enjoyed because of 2020 and this pandemic is rest. I got a lot of rest. I got to catch up on all the rest that I was not able to catch up on for majority of my life once I started working. It was nice waking up, not having to set an alarm and not have to report to somebody's office or report to somebody's whatever, that I could take on the day and do whatever I want for myself. And that was something that I don't even think when I moved out of my parents' place, I had a chance to do. And it's so nice. I can still do it right now, and I can still schedule my own day. And I don't think I'll ever really want to go back to a predominantly scheduled schedule, if that makes sense. If I do have a schedule, because yes, I still love schedules, but I want to feel free to move things around if I need to, and I don't want to like just feel pressured. I don't want to have that pressure of like having a schedule where I know for sure I have to be at X, Y, and Z place at this time. You know, like if I'm feeling sick one day, I want to be able to say I'm feeling sick and I can't come in and it's not going to ruin like my career or something like that. And the last best moment, obviously, for this year, for me in particular, was the revolutionary summer that I had with the workers group and the People's Assembly and all the other wonderful grassroots organizations that came about during this time. And I want to give a quick shout out to them. More specifically, I want to give a shout out to Angela. She helped me with the Dismantle National World War II Museum and just like getting all the things that we needed for the protests, and just like having that extra aid, and just like having someone that I already know is very well versed in this work. It was nice to have someone there that I already admire and look up to, and just like have them there to really like hone in on the messages that I'm still personally trying to figure out on my end. So like have somebody that already knows what I'm trying to say and trying to accomplish, and then being able to elaborately explain it in ways that it's all still jumbled up here. Like it was wonderful. So shout out to New Orleans People's Assembly. They've really been my saving grace. They've almost been like my family throughout all of this, because we're all coming together for the same reason. We all want a better world. We all want a more equal world, a more just world. And we do that. We go out in the streets and we tell people, we are in the streets. We are here for you. You don't have to just see us online. You don't have to, like, we are in people's faces with masks on and like socially distanced, but we're like tangibly there. They can tangibly touch us and see like if they want to be a part of it. Like I like that aspect of it. I like being able to like be one with community and talk to people. So that was wonderful. Another part of this summer that really obviously put things into perspective during those protests was when we got tear gassed on the 7 days of action. I was thankfully not so as far up front as like my boyfriend who was there, but it's still one of those situations where it really did not have to end in that way. And I'm not going to go into complete detail about all this just because like it still saddens me to think that we've gotten so militarized, is that the word, in our society that we have to do I think it's called nuclear warfare in each other. And I don't know, y'all, I can't even think about it without like just kind of going blank. Like right now my mind is going blank because like it makes me numb to just think that happened. And I kind of talk about how I felt about all of that earlier this summer, so I'm not going to go into it again, but just know that this was a very life-changing summer, and the fact that I finally found a community that gets it, a community that is understanding of my struggles, because it's all of our struggles. They understand the frustration, and it's somebody they're people that I can look up to. And I think also with taking the political education classes with the People's Assembly these last couple of weeks, it's kind of helped my conscience understand things that I couldn't necessarily, like I knew what was going on in my head. Like I knew these things were happening. I knew these structures were going on, but like I didn't have the right words. I didn't know what to call them. I didn't know where to place them. And now I do. So as for the podcast accomplishments within the last 10 months, I I'm very proud of and thankful for the surveys that I had. I don't know what it is about those surveys. Y'all really came through for me this year on them. I know a lot of them are very easy to take, and I used that information not only to just like produce the episode, but it also kind of gave me an idea of who listens to the podcast, because I don't necessarily get those type of demographic informations like on my podcast host website. So having those surveys were great just for that. Also launching my Patreon when I finally got serious about this podcast, having that there, and just like where it has grown to since I started it has been wonderful. Also, and I don't know if y'all know this, but I actually got my first grant from the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation for the podcast. Got it like I got the award letter a couple of weeks ago. But it was a grant that is going to help me take this podcast to the next level. And then I think my commitment, obviously, to the podcast has definitely been one of my biggest accomplishments, because there were so many times where I just did not want to do a damn thing. And I still feel that way, honestly, sometimes. It's just so much work. And it's like a job. But, you know, unfortunately, I'm not getting paid that much for it. So join my Patreon to help me out. Personally, my accomplishments this year, I kind of talked about some of them, but I think some of my smallest accomplishments that I find personally very important was one that I was able to pay my bills and rent on time. Another personal accomplishment was just being vocal about my needs and what I need at that time. And I saw this manifest in many different ways, whether it was interpersonal relationships that I had with other people that may have been, you know, living their white privilege and not realizing it. Now I'm have to like tell them, yo, you have white privilege or something like that. Like, and I hate saying white privilege. It's actually white inferiority, but we're going to get into that at another point. But like different things like that, just like not holding it in, not feeling bad about saying what you need to say in the moment. But I mean, obviously saying it consensually, but like saying it and not holding it in, because I know if I hold things in, it just like stays there until, you know, it starts to show up in different ways, like bloody poops and acne. But also I found that my needs were being met sexually as well. And this is what I'm going to talk about on my Patreon. But I was able to be more vocal about like what I needed to get pleasured the way that I want. And so I've been, and I love that, because the more I do it, the less bad I feel about it, if that makes sense. Like before, you know, I felt like if I were to tell someone, you know, like, yo, I need this, or I need X, Y, and Z, or like, I really don't think this is a good idea, or, you know, try it this way. I used to feel like I was just being overbearing and that I was being bossy, or, you know, like that I was taking too much pride in myself in a way that, you know, like I'm not attending to their needs or something like that. That's something I started to think about. And one of my last most proud accomplishments is not getting pregnant this year. Whew. But as y'all know, I'm on the ID now. I got that back in February. So I want to express some gratitude right quick to some people that really, really, at least within the podcast world of the Self-Aware Millennial, has helped me out so much. And I have just kind of been there and just been very helpful and vocal about, you know, how they're enjoying it. I wanted to give a shout out to like Mariah. I think Mariah was like one of the first people. Calvin was the first one. And then like Mariah, Sean's been so helpful. So has Allison, Neil, even JB, like he's been helpful. And my friend Will, as y'all met first couple episodes, like episode 10, all of them together throughout different points in this year have been so reassuring to where I'm going with it, because sometimes it's hard with me to be encouraged. Like, I can encourage myself to do something. When I'm really determined to do something, I can do it. And then, like, as I'm doing it, I start to, like, even like right now as I'm filming, I'm starting to feel like, oh God, like, no one's going to like this. No one's going to want to watch this. And why am I just talking to myself? And like, why am I just trying to be this extra person? Like, why can't I just, sleep and not do podcasting right now? But I wanted to get this out to y'all. And I do feel that it's going to be important for me to be able to look back at this and, just see my growth. So that's part of the reason I'm doing it. But I wanted to express some gratitude, especially to those people, because they've been very, very helpful in my growing in this podcast. Another person that I want to give a special thank you to is my boyfriend, because he's been there with me, obviously, for the last 7.5 years, gone through everything together. And I'm just, especially when they came to this podcast, they're always there for me through and through, but they also started helping me in ways that I needed it, like the sound editing for this. It can be a lot, and I'm just thankful that they took time to help in that regard so that I can focus on the creative aspect of the podcast. So I just want to say thank you for doing that, and I'm grateful that, oh gosh, sorry y'all, I'm just like there's just ways that I want to be. It may be because I haven't eaten yet today, but like, I feel like I'm in a daze and I want to be more present, and I can't right now. And it's because I know that I need rest, and I need more just time to live and just be one with myself. And I have not had that just yet today. And I know this break is going to be so needed. But to end this all, I want to thank you for all the words of encouragement that I've received from everybody this past year through the culmination of everything that went on in my life. As y'all can tell right now, I'm very, I don't know if you can tell, but like my body is just so done with working right now. Working in ways that require brain power and just consciousness. Like, I kind of just want to mellow out and not have to worry about anything for the next couple of weeks, which is why I'm going to be taking this wonderful break for like the next 3 weeks. And I hope that y'all enjoy your break. Rest is important. Rest revives. And I know I'm looking forward to it. And I like, even right now, I just can't talk like I used to. And I can't focus like I used to. I can't stay on it as much as I used to. And it gets even harder when I'm doing solo episodes like this. So just bear with me. I'm almost done. I was going to give out my New Year goals, but I don't want to anticipate something right now, especially with this pandemic. We don't know exactly how long we're going to be in this. So my goal for next year is to make it to 2022. That's my goal, period. To wrap up, as y'all know, I'm going to be posting another episode before the end of this year. This is not the last one. The last one is going to be my polyamory review, because I was obviously having sex with others throughout this year. But polyamory is not just about sex. It's about the connections and the relationships that I have built throughout this whole pandemic, despite everything that's been going on. Like, I've still been having successful friendship, relationships, situationships that have transpired. So I wanted to dedicate this next episode that'll be premiering on Patreon to that, so y'all can check it out. But I'm literally going to be going into basically every single interaction I had, whether it was emotional or sexual, and just kind of reflecting on each one and talking about how it has helped me personally understand my own needs and just how I communicate with others. Cause like it's something that, and it's funny, yeah, communicating verbally but also sexually. I'm gonna talk about that. So I hope you join me on Patreon. It's only $5 a month. And if you don't want to pay for like the next couple of months, just pay this month, check the episode out, and then, go do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to care. I would love to keep you there so you can like look at the rest of the episodes, but I understand money is tight for a lot of people. So I'm not going to hold you to it, but just know that I would really appreciate, this would be a wonderful Christmas gift, birthday gift, late birthday gift, if you do join my Patreon. I do have a lot of fun being creative on there when I am fully mentally, physically present with you guys. But when I'm not, I really have to take those rests and those relaxation moments. Otherwise, I'm going to burn out. There were plenty of times this year where I did feel like giving up. Not to the point of suicide, but to the point of just like wanting to just throw in the towel and just cry and just want to be left alone. Didn't want to hang out with people. Like I get like that. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode. Please give me your feedback on it. I will be on social media every now and then, but I'm not going to be on there nearly as much as I have been in the last couple of months. I'm literally going to take this time to take a nice little break and rest and sleep. And that's all I'm doing. If you want to know where I am, that's where I'm doing. If you are local to New Orleans and you want to take me out on a little date, like to coffee or, I don't know, queso and chips with some nachos, Felipe's or something like that. Or shoot, let's go to the taco truck. Like, I'm available for all of those things. Like, I would love to I just love to like do nothing but also be sociable still. But I just can't do this podcast stuff right now until I get my break. So with that, I hope that you enjoy this lovely preview bonus clip of one of my Patreon episodes. I hope that y'all have a wonderful new year, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.